IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and today we have a very interesting episode on gut health. Now, this is a question I keep getting asked all the time. Ashdin, talk about gut health, talk about gut health, talk about gut health. And there is so much information that is coming out. So I thought, why don't we get an expert on gut health to take us through what it is, why is it important, and what we can do about it. So join me in welcoming Shonali Sabherwal to the Habit Coach podcast. Shonali, welcome.
Thanks, Ashdin. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Shonali, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, where should I start? I did market research for 12, 13 years of my life. I was hardcore corporate.
Okay.
And then my dad got cancer, prostate cancer stage 4. And the doctors had given him 4 years to live. And I decided I wanted to embark on a path that made it easier for him and also kept him out of the cancer. So I read this brilliant book called Recycled by Life. It's by a doctor called Dr. Sattellaro, who followed the macrobiotic diet and kept his cancer at bay instead of 4 years for 10 years.
Wow.
And he eventually did not die of the cancer. So it fascinated me. So I wrote to the American authorities and they said, look, there's a lady in Dehradun who's practicing this. Since you're in India, why don't you go and meet her first? And then let's see what we can do. So I went and met Mona Schwartz, my mentor, and she taught me and my mom the food, the principles and all. But she was limited in a way because, she wasn't doing this for a living. She was just doing this out of the compassion of her heart. I remember in those days, she charged me 5,000 rupees. This was in 1998 to stay with her, learn with her for a week. And my mom and me kind of, started practicing through books, this, that, and the other. But my dad gave up along the way because he's a hardcore Punjabi, wanted to eat his meat. And he said, I'm going to die eating, so forget it. Don't worry, women, I'm okay with this. So we were okay with it. We took it upon ourselves and he ate what he had to eat. But he brought me to the technique because then when he passed on, I decided, look, I want to change the course of my life. This is not my career. I don't want to be in market research for the next so many years. And I went and pursued it. So I learned it for 4 years. And it's an approach that means macro means large, bios is life. So it's a larger than life approach to living well and healthy 24/7. That's what it means.
Larger than life approach to living health. Such a cool name.
Yeah. Macrobiotics.
So what are the things that it involves?
So basically, of course, it takes you away from things that create toxicity in the blood, right? So throws off your pH, creates acidic blood condition. So it'll take you off everything that does it. And what are those things? Because your audience would like to know, our listeners would like to know, dairy, sugar, white flour, refined processed food, sweeteners, includes jaggery. A lot of people think jaggery is cool. It's not. Not extreme forms, not having too much of it. Honey, not too much of it. Minimal animal protein. So have it, but know how to balance it. And, anything that's coming off the shelf in a box. So anything with chemical additives, food colors, blah, blah, blah. Now, it does that as a blanket rule for people who are not well. All right. But having said that, it's also I've lived that life for the last 25 odd years. So it also does it for people who want to just follow a healthier life because the approach is Japanese in origin, but it got taken to America and perfected there. And I learned it in America, but I brought it back to India and then Indianized it. So it starts including foods that are closer to nature. So whole grains, vegetables, whatever our Indian diet is very good. Vegetables, lentils, legumes, seeds, nuts, fermented foods, because it's big on the gut. Right? The focus of macrobiotics is huge on the gut and takes away dairy. So Indians don't like the fact that their dahi goes out of their window and the milk goes out of the window and all the stuff they're doing dairy with. And then, of course, Indians love their sugar.
Is ghee counted as part of the dairy?
No. So why ghee is not counted is because the way ghee is made takes out the milk solids and the casein from it. Right?
Perfect.
So that's the reason why ghee is okay. So the diet also goes with local, seasonal and energies of the food. So that's another uniqueness, And then we as counselors are trained in the art of oriental facial diagnosis. So I can diagnose organs looking at the face and meridian diagnosis. So we can analyze how badly off you are by doing touch meridian diagnosis. So when we do that, then you bring in the uniqueness of the organs in the approach. So you're looking at a person and you're saying, oh my God, liver off because I can see it on your face. And, the person's not telling me the liver's off. And then the blood test reveal, yes, the liver's off.
How would a person even know that their liver is off, right?
So I had this guy walk into my clinic one day And he looked at me and I'm telling myself, God, liver's totally off, right? And he's looking at me and saying, I'll do anything on your diet, but I'm not going to give up my chicken and I'm not going to give up my alcohol. So I was like, oh my God, I wish he knew how bad his liver was, because his liver lines were like right there, right? So I said, okay, sometimes you got to work with the client slowly. You can't really bombard them right away. So I said, okay, fine. I am going to see you over the next 1 month. So I'll address this later. Bachelor, didn't want to take it all in together. So I said, it's okay, but I just want you to know there's a liver problem happening. It's not that bad. It's not like cirrhosis or something, but it's there. He went home and he tested positive for jaundice.
Wow.
So now, anyway, alcohol was out, and he had to modify his diet and greasy food was out. But that being a uniqueness of the approach is very, very deep. And it talks about also using and changing your cooking styles and your energy of the foods with the seasons. So in winter, why your energy changes of the foods and cooking styles. In summer, why would it change? What would work with you? That kind of stuff. It's pretty deep.
It is, because I'm just thinking about it, saying that how would you even manage and plan all of this out, right? So we have so many people.
One good thing is that nature helps you, because when you go out there in a winter, the vegetables that you get are different from the summer. So nature helps you, right? Already in the winter, we are getting all our leafy greens. We don't get them in our Bombay monsoon. I'm living in Bombay, so I'm talking about Bombay. So obviously the nature is telling you have more greens, right? That is an easy thing. But we also know one more other thing, common sense. Winters are cooling. The climate has changed. I'm no longer using air conditioning anymore like I do. I'm living in Bombay. Now, if I look at my vegetables, what am I going to look at? I'm not going to look at cooling cucumber. No, I'm going to look at my vegetables that are going to give me warmth. I'm going to look at all my round vegetables, which are in season, like turnip, round, beetroot, pumpkin. These are all winter vegetables. So, and now I come home. Now I can't blend them in a smoothie because juicing will cool my body down more. So obviously I'm going to make a soup. Common sense. I don't want to juice them and make a juice, right? Juicing will cool my body down.
Correct.
I can't have a juice 24/7, 365 days of the year, right? So it's common sense, actually. If you really go deep, it's common sense.
And what are the major issues with people following a plan on nutrition? Like very often people want to make a change, and then somewhere along the line, they fall off the wagon. Like, what is it that prevents?
Stress.
Stress.
I think people fall off the bandwagon only because, see, you have to use foods to support you. When that becomes the agenda, right? Like I was doing this podcast with you today. Okay, I got up in the morning. Now, I knew I needed my brain about me. I knew I had to talk properly. I knew I had to have my thoughts and wits about me. Would I have a juice in the morning? No, I won't, because a juice is full of sugar, would make me scattered, right? I had a nice bowl of millet porridge. Because millet is a grain that is going to give me sustained sugar for 8 hours. All right. Put in some nuts, brain food. All right. Put in some apple, good prebiotics, and I'm set. Now I can roll till lunchtime.
Correct.
Okay. So, and it's porridge time. It's winter. Okay. So, of course, my brain, because it works naturally, it's like my brain is geared to work like that. So I'm working. But in reality, if you really sit back and ask, I always ask myself, what's my activity for the day? I eat to support myself. So my food gives me my neurotransmitters in my brain, right? Most people are not thinking like that, right? What is it that makes a diet plan go fut? A diet plan goes fut because you're not eating to support your brain. If you're going to eat to support your brain, your diet plan will never go fut. You'll always be on a good plan. And it should never be a diet. It should be a freedom from a diet. Macrobiotics is about freedom from a diet. So that's the approach you should follow.
Yeah, like I keep telling people that don't have a diet, because diets mean that you're on a diet and then you're going to be off a diet. That means there is a finite point where you will do it up to. Instead, think about them as principles for life.
Absolutely.
Right? And macrobiotics are principles for life.
They are. But the thing is, it's difficult for people to follow those principles. See, if you're telling someone, don't have dairy for life.
Very difficult. They'll be like, how dare you take away my cheese?
How dare you take away my cheese?
Milk,
now you
milk.
ask yourself, you ask yourself, look, can I take dairy? Okay, the answer is yes, I can take it. Okay, suppose a person says, no, I can't give up my cheese. I'm telling Ashdin Doctor, give up his cheese. He says, I can't do it, right? Now, but you're having that cheese, and then how much are you having? Are you having a glass of milk in the day? Are you having cheese? Are you having dahi? Are you also having some paneer? Are you also... So in your day, does dairy make up 80% of what you're doing or 50% of what you're doing? Then start taking it out. I love my cheese. I'll keep my cheese in, but I'll do aged cheese. I'll not do Amul slices. I'll do aged cheese because aged cheese will not harm me as much as a regular off-the-shelf cheese would. So make smarter choices then about what you're going to include. Just remember one thing in life, and I believe in this really, really firmly and strongly. Whatever you put in your mouth on a daily basis has a relationship with you, okay? And you consummate this relationship every time you eat it or drink it, all right? Now, if it's going to go into your mouth, it's also shaping your body and your outsides. That's what your blood's coming out of, right?
Correct.
If you think it's like some magic formula that you're just getting good skin and good hair, and no, what you're putting in your mouth is making blood condition to reflect outward and manifestations of everything you are, right? And whatever you have, this food is a very intimate relationship. Sometimes you tell people to choose between food and sex and they choose food.
Very often.
Very often, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you are going to have a relationship with certain food groups or certain food items for the rest of your life, you better make sure they are good relationships. Okay?
Absolutely. I love this idea. I never thought about it this way. Like, choose the relationships that you keep, especially with food.
With food. Choose your relationship. What do you want to, do you want to have a relationship with millet? Or do you want to have a relationship with white refined maida? You know, I mean, how is that relationship going to serve you?
Correct.
This is the way you should look at food. You
know, this is so funny because now you start thinking about food as relationships and you're like, yeah, but I had no idea this was also a concern. I did not see this side of this person. I did not see this side of the food. Just my mind's exploding right now. So, you know, like when we were talking about gut health, and that was the idea of the podcast, gut health has to do with the kind of food that you eat, right? Like, tell us a little bit about gut health. Like, what are the problems that come from gut health and what are the things causing them?
If you restrict it to Indians right now, everyone has minor form of gut on the gut spectrum. We are always on the gut spectrum. We are either too good, too bad, little way off, little this, little that. The idea is everything you eat is going down a long tube called the gut. The gut starts at the mouth and ends at the back, right? It's not just restricted to your tummy. It's a tube.
Correct.
Right? Everybody thinks, oh, gut bolte hain, so it's only over here. It's not. So it starts at the mouth, it ends at the back, and it's this long tube. And if it's a tube, it's got everything in it that houses this colony of microbes. All right? The colony can be good, bad, or neutral. You need all kinds. All right? And what is feeding this colony? The feeding of this colony or the destroying of that colony, which is almost like a parallel organ. This colony of microbes is a parallel organ. It's an organ that was long neglected. But what is feeding it is the food that you eat, or destroying it is the food that you eat, right? So when you eat this food repeatedly over time, let's say you're addicted to pain medication. You're doing it repeatedly over time. You're addicted to acidity medication, right? Because people have GERD and heartburn and all. Repeatedly over time, what it's actually doing to you is it's going in, suppressing your symptom temporarily, but then again, destroying colonies of gut bacteria, gut bacteria, all right? But if you're eating and nourishing your body with, let's say, a fiber food, like a high fiber food, like you're getting your brown rice in, or you're getting vegetables in, or you're getting greens in, or you're getting nuts in, or this feeds gut bacteria. High fiber foods feed gut bacteria. So then you're helping sustain that gut microbiota in your system. You know, it's working for you. At the same time, does your body have the capacity to take the overload of a diet which does not define it? You know, like let's say dairy goes in. Now, dairy's acidic pH balance is anyway high. When it goes in, it gets higher. So it's an acidic food for the body, actually. All right. So it goes in. Now, how much of it are you getting in that's destroying it? And how much of it are you replenishing in the day, your gut bacteria, with the good foods? You have to look at that equation. All right. Correct. Slowly what's happening is, and then because of the way they assimilate, they release certain proteins. And when your intestinal lining is supposed to have what we call tight junctions, they think of a wall with, tiles. The tiles have a cement joining them, right? So they call it grout.
Correct.
Now think of this stuff getting eroded over time and those tight junctions becoming more permeable than they are. So then what's going to start happening is undigested food, toxins, pathogens, these are all going to leak into your bloodstream. Because the gut is your immune barrier. The gut is protecting you from everything. The gut is the processing unit of your body, right? So when that starts happening, that's when the autoimmune spectrum response of the body goes up.
So
that's when you
basically
get
the bricks
autoimmune.
start leaking. That seepage starts taking place.
So they
Like
call
how
it
you have
leaky gut. They
leaky
call
gut.
it leaky gut, right? What is a leaky gut? Leaky gut is this. So what are you doing? First of all, there's hope. These tight junctions can be sealed.
Okay.
Very easily. So there's hope. You're not going to be, you're not going to be permanently in that state. So you can eat to get them back to balance. Then there's hope. You can eat to better gut bacteria, right? Then there's hope that you can eat to reverse everything. Body takes 4 months to build blood structure, 2 years to change cell structure. So in 4 months, if you work hard, you can get back to normal. So there's hope.
So it's not that, oh my God, it's destroyed. I've always had this issue. I'll always continue to have this issue.
It's never that.
Keep a bottle of antacid next to me.
No. When someone even comes to me with a cancer and says, look, am I going to live? And I'm like, that's not a question I can answer. That's a question. If there's a God, he will answer. But I will work towards it. Because to me, cancer is a big discharge of the body. Like any other ailment is, like a cold or a cough. Cancer is the biggest discharge. The body is revolted and is now saying, look, boss, you've destroyed me. Now you got to repair me so that I can live and give you your life back. So repair. I'll help you repair it. Right?
So what are things that people can start doing from now onwards to A, stop damaging their gut, and B, start repairing it and making it tagra?
So the first thing is any kind of medication that you're taking just because it's habitual and it's not needed. Get rid of it. All right. If you're a person who pops pain medication like there's no tomorrow, start working with another form like acupuncture, acupressure, anything to get your pain under control, but not medication.
Interesting.
Then antibiotics, unless you need it, only then use it. Don't just use it indiscriminately. All right. Then you look at the foods that you're eating. Are you eating too much sugar? Because sugar will definitely destroy gut bacteria. Are you popping in too many sugary foods and sugary drinks? Are you used to aerated beverages? Are you used too much alcohol? Are you having too much of dairy? All right. Like lots of dairy. Are you using too many stimulants like coffees and teas all the time? All right. Processed and refined foods, refined oils, not good for the system. All right.
Can you define refined oils?
Refined. So if it's not cold pressed.
Okay.
All right. So cold pressed is good, but refined. Ghee is fine. Ghee you can do. All right. But a lot of Indian homes are using refined oil. So I don't want to put it out as a blanket here. I want to say, look at the refined oil you're using. Because there are some blends which are good, but some blends which are not great. All right. So pay attention to those. Then go ahead with it. No problem. Because oil is the basis of every Indian home.
Correct. Absolutely.
Oil and salt. So look at the foods that are coming in. How much of junk food are you eating? How many white carbs are you consuming? Because that's sugar coming in too. Once you have taken all this off, if you've got a severe gut issue, then you start now looking at the foods that you're going to bring in, which are closer to nature. So you're looking at all your millets, brown rice, red rice, vegetables, nuts and seeds, fruit, but fermented food also comes in. It becomes a big component of what your plate is looking like in the afternoons.
So before we get into that, I had one small thing. I was smiling because I realized that when you said remove all these things, I've known people who are saying, "Fir bacha kya hai? What is left to eat?" Right? When you said that you've taken out grains, taken out sugar, taken out... Correct.
So if you don't want to do that and you want to do it slowly, like I said, there's always a choice. So you want to keep dairy in, right? You want to do your cheese, have better quality cheese. Okay, aged cheese actually is good on a certain scale. All right. You want to keep your pizza in once a week and have a cheat day. Do it, but then 98% of the time do the other stuff also. All right. So some people don't want to jump whole hog and take it on, but some people want to jump. My clients who come to me need to jump in and take it whole hog. Otherwise, nothing works. And then they realize by the end of it, they're so happy that they're now going to have minuscule amounts of what I said was their list of avoids and eat like this most of the time.
Correct.
Right. But I'm just telling you, coming from a perspective of someone who A, has studied it, and B, who's practiced it, and C, who works with clients. I'm coming from that perspective that if you want to remedy your gut, you've got to give it a shock first. You've got to work with it for at least 4 months, very stringently for it to repair.
Absolutely. And what have you noticed, for example, that one cheat day that happens with the pizza? How long does it take for the gut to recover from that one cheat day?
It depends upon the constitution of the person. So how badly off is that person? So now I'll tell you something. I have a client of mine who's got a very weak gut. So he will take maybe 4 days to recover. Okay. Maybe you, Ashdin, you have a very good gut. Like let's put you aside because I don't know what your gut situation is like, but I have a very dear friend. She's a Parsi and she can eat a horse and she'll still survive. She's like that strong. Because another thing that we don't realize is there are two things which are guiding our health. Our constitution, which is what our parents gave us when they conceived us. The health of the sperm and the health of the egg determines your constitution, which is your blueprint. And our condition, how we've worsened our condition over time.
Correct.
These are the two things which govern a person's health. All right. So depending upon now, that Parsi friend of mine is very, very strong, but this client of mine is very, very weak. So she will recover in a day. He will take 4 days. I will get a migraine because my body just can't take it.
Correct.
Because for me, it dumps in the system very fast and I will get a migraine instantly, which will last for 48 hours.
Okay.
So it depends upon where you're at.
Fascinating.
We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with postcards from nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website or wherever you get your podcast from.
Welcome back. All right, let's jump into the conversation.
Okay, so you were talking about the fermented foods. You were talking about the things that we should be eating. You're talking about nuts, whole grains, vegetables, and then...
So fiber foods should be high because gut feeds on fiber. The gut bacteria feed on residual fiber coming from the foods that you're eating. Very important to keep that quotient in your diet high. Then also fermented foods, because fermented foods bring in good probiotic. So things like sauerkraut, kimchi, lactic acid bacteria fermentation. These are all those kinds of ferments. Maybe doing a kefir, non-dairy kefir, I would say. Dairy kefir if you can digest dairy. Beet kwas or kanji. This weather is great for that kanji. 3-day ferment. Do that. Do your pickles at home. I'm not saying don't do them, but make sure that your pickle is made with the right salt, the right oil, and less jaggery, because Indian pickles are kind of mutated. We have them for flavor. We don't have them for gut bacteria. We take our pickles for flavor.
Correct.
So, and then this season is great for kacha haldi.
Okay.
Raw turmeric. So if you can just, what I do is I shred it really nicely, like julienne the turmeric, and I take mustard and I take salt and lime. And I just nicely mix it all up and gets this bitter flavor because liver loves bitter. So it's got this bitter flavor. I keep it out for like 2 days and then I put it in the fridge. So that's also a quick probiotics.
Okay. So that also becomes a probiotic.
Yes, it is. You can do quick pickles. You can do salt water brine. Chop cucumber, put it in salt water brine and put that out for 24 hours. Stick it in your fridge. You can make a lovely, simple beet kanji. Recipes on Google galore, YouTube galore. Make a beet kanji, drink the liquid. These are all probiotics. So you're getting those good gut bacteria fed every day, because good gut bacteria check in and check out. They don't stay in your system all the time.
Okay.
Right? It's the bad ones that lurk around. So you got to feed the good gut bacteria.
I'm just picturing them as, those unwanted guests at home that just don't know when to leave. So the bad bacteria just hang around, the other ones come and go. So when should people be having these probiotics? Is there a time? Is there with meal? How does it work?
Yeah, so if it's like a fermented, like the kacha haldi thing that I told you, then you can have it with your meal. So if you're doing a sauerkraut, you can have it with your meal. If you're doing kimchi, you can have it with your meal. If you're doing a probiotic beverage, you can have it in between. Sometimes I tell my clients, people in India have this tendency of having a drink like a lassi after their food, right? It's a very dumb thing. So why don't you have a beet kanji instead? It's a salty flavor.
Correct.
It's got kala namak in it, black salt. So that becomes like a beverage for them to drink, about 120 ml at a time. Okay.
120 ml, that's this much. That's a tiny amount.
150 ml is the max you should, or to 200 ml if you want. Then of course, if you're ambitious enough to make your sauerkraut, because there are many recipes out there now. If you're ambitious enough
Mine
to
have
make
always flopped. Huh?
kimchi, it takes time. It's a lot of practice. If you got to get your sauerkraut right, it's a lot of practice. All right. So if you can make those and keep them, then you can have, like 1 to 2 tablespoons. But make sure those ferments, you can master them to last long. If you can't master them, just order it, guys. There's plenty out there to order.
Correct.
There are plenty of good brands now.
What should people be watching out for when they are getting onto this probiotic bandwagon? Like, what are things that you should...
So some people, if you feel initially those probiotics may cause a bit of extra gas in the system, because think of microbes, they're going in there and they're playing with the ones in your system and they're saying, hey, now I've arrived, I've come to stay here and I'm going to kick you out. And there's all this drama going on, right? So that drama is going to create a little bit of fartiness and whatever. Pardon me, I don't know if I can use this on your program. But it's going to create gas in the system, right? But if you are seriously histamine intolerant, which means if you are the kind of person who suffers from allergies and immune system's constantly down and you know that you're in that spectrum, then don't take them because you may be generating histamines already and fermented foods have them. So you may react to them. But there's a way out. You are going to strengthen those histamines with the dietary principles I've given you so that you can eat the fermented foods later. So it's not the end of the day, right? Not the end of the game.
Correct.
But yeah, be watchful. I would say the easiest one to start with, now that would be the next question. What would be the easiest one? I'm sure the listeners are thinking is kanji. Easiest, most friendly, can do 30 ml, graduate to 60, then go up to 150. Okay? And
Kanji is what?
Easiest ml. Kanji.
No, what is kanji?
Kanji is a probiotic beverage that is made with carrots or beetroot and water. And it's you want me to tell them how it's done?
If you like.
Oh, sure. So what you do is you take 2 kilos of beetroot or carrot. In this season, purple carrot is out. So the dark black carrots are in season. So you can take that. You add 2 liters of water, 1 kilo of this and 2 liters of water. Sorry.
You grate it fine? You chop it up?
You chop up the carrot or the beetroot. You put it on the gas on your flame with the water. Just warm it, not boil. Just warm. Okay. Add a tablespoon of kala namak. Add 2 tablespoons of ground mustard. Okay. And mix it all up nicely. I even go ahead and add 2 nice big green chilies because I like it a little spicy. Put it in a bottle, put a lid on it and keep it in the sun for 3 days. But every day, open your bottle and stir it with a wooden spoon. Okay? 3 days in the sun. And then that liquid is ready and you can stick it in the fridge. All right? And then you can have it over the next week or so, week 7.
So very easy to make.
Very easy. Very easy to do. And the most easiest thing on your system to start with.
Interesting. So to put everything together, basically start the habits of figuring out what are the things that are damaging you, get them out of your system.
Yes.
Put these foods that are good fibrous foods for the gut bacteria that you already have in first. Along with that, supplement these probiotics in the form of kanji, sauerkraut, kimchis and all of that.
Yeah, and I want to throw in this here because a lot of the people who will be knowing gut health are going to listen to this podcast as well. For them, they may say, oh, she left out prebiotics. No, I haven't, because prebiotics is also good. But prebiotics comes in through banana, onions, leeks, all these foods. And if anyway, our Indian diets are high with these foods. We are using plenty of onion. If you want, you can increase the banana in your system. You can go and have a look at what are prebiotic foods and add them to your regimen. All right. There's also something called postbiotics. That's a new term. And this is something that's emerging in gut circles. And that's why I'm bringing it up. Postbiotics are the compounds that are left in your system for the gut bacteria to feed on after the fermentation in your gut is taking place. So let's say your fiber hits your tummy and the gut bacteria feeding on fiber. So the compounds they make are the postbiotics. Okay. So you have to, now they are coming in the form of supplements and pills also. All right. But I always believe have everything coming through foods, right? Rather than supplements. All right. Because your body, we don't know how badly off you are. So we don't know how you're going to absorb those supplements. But food is something that your body knows how to work with. So it'll get the best out of what you're eating.
You touched upon a very important point, and I would love to take this as our last point for this podcast, which is the absorption.
Yes.
Right. We keep saying that it's not what you eat, but it's what you can absorb that actually makes a big difference for the nutrition.
Yes.
How do we increase our absorption ability?
By strengthening your gut. Because if you strengthen your gut, absorption, assimilation, and elimination, these are the 3 pillars of what the gut has to do for you. Right. And people always say, I'm doing so much, but my skin is so bad. Because you're not absorbing. Right. If you absorb, these things shouldn't be happening to you, right? How do you absorb? You absorb by strengthening the gut and tightening the TJs, tight junctions of the gut, not being a leaky gut. You absorb by eating the right foods and trying to, so that the body has the ability to naturally extract the nutrients out of the food. You absorb by the elimination process being easy. So you're pooping every day and you're not in that situation of constipation or overtly going for diarrhea. I mean, there's so much information about that on the net now, and on Instagram, it's funny. And I kind of talk about it on my posts quite openly, so this cycle has to continue properly. And Indians are anyway, I think, obsessed with their bowels.
Pooping is the most important thing. Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you go on a trek for 14 days, that's all you talk about, right?
Exactly.
Like, poop.
Yeah.
But so many people say that I have a bad gut. I have no idea how they got that diagnosis. Like, what is it that, what's a good gut? What should a good gut feel like? What should a bad gut feel like?
So one is that you have to ask yourself a few questions, right? Which I've outlined in my other books. The Detox Diet, the Beauty Diet outlines all this. One is, first of all, do you get up and go? Do you poop every morning? That's the first question. All right. I don't want to hear you're pooping in the evening. I want to hear you're pooping in the morning, because that's the natural, that's the way the body works. It's supposed to get you're not going to poop with a cup of coffee and green tea and a smoke. No, you're going to poop. You're going to get up, get a signal, and you're going to go. Do you feel evacuated when you do it, or do you need to go 4 or 5 times to do it? All right. That's showing that your gut is compromised. Okay. Do you naturally get the signs of hunger? Okay. Are you a person who is suffering with allergies all the time? You have a cold very easily. You react to that. And then you say, oh, it's the climate that's doing it. It's not the climate, honey. It's your body that's doing it. Right. So are you reacting to to getting allergies all the time? You're constantly recovering from something. Are you getting migraines all the time? Okay. Is your body throwing up a migraine all the time? Are you bloated after eating meals? Is your body just like your stomach just goes into this pregnant belly when you've eaten your food? That's a big sign. All right.
Correct.
Are you feeling sluggish and lethargic? And, is your tongue coated white when you're up in the mornings? Get up and look at it in the mirror. Is it always white? Has it got a thick white coating all the time? There are people who tell me, oh my God, I brush my tongue and, this coating that just doesn't go. All right. That's a sign. And also, are you really getting bad gas? That's like a huge sign. All right. Because there are people who come to me and tell me, oh my God, I'm in such a bad shape. I need to leave the room when I'm in the room. So is that happening to you? So these are some signs to be mindful of and watching. Then that shows that you need correction.
Fantastic. Absolutely love this episode. We covered so much about gut health and the way to approach it. Shonali, how can people learn more about this from what you put out? How can people connect with you? What are some of the books that they should be reading?
So I've written a nice one called The Detox Diet. It's still doing the rounds. I published it in 2017. I mean, it came out in 2017, but it's still doing well because my royalty figures just told me that. You can take the podcast. So it's still doing well. They've re-jacketed the book. So, obviously it's done well. That book really talks about gut health and gives you some really good solutions. It's got 3 diets in there, which is to remedy your gut. So you can pretty much pick any. The beauty diet kind of sets the tone of, so that was like my volume 1 to the detox diet. That talks, and I talk about it all the time on Instagram. Ashdin, you know that. I talk about it all the time on my blogs. I'm trying to educate people as much as I can. I'm trying to teach them a lot. So I do a lot of workshops on sauerkraut and kimchi, and I'm doing that all the time. So the best way is just to keep in touch with my Instagram page. That's where I announce everything.
What's your handle?
It's Soul Food Shonali.
Soul Food Shonali.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashdin.
So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome 180.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to Yan Liu and Shikhar Chaudhary about the halo effect around the IPL on Star Sports and its impact in the overall content industry. Speaking of Varun, on Think Fast with Varun and Suchita, we meet Sajid Pai, director of Bloom Ventures, who gives us an overview of venture capital and funding in 2021. On Ikka Dukka Economy, Abhinav Trivedi and Dr. Bharat Junjunwala discuss the GDP and its effects on our daily lives. On Say No to Drama, Chetna busts all the hype around year endings and New Year resolutions. And on Simplified, the gang gets together to discuss the creator economy and everything it entails. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. We'd also really appreciate any ratings or reviews you can give us on any of the platforms that we're listening on, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, or IVM Podcast app. Wherever you're listening, do let us know that you are listening. I'd also like to remind you all that we have a number of YouTube channels where a number of shows are available. You can go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to check out what channels we have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, CoinSwitch, Kuber, and Intel. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh, and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.